So we're on this page, the one that says Ghusl. Okay. It says page 44 and 47 and on the bottom slide. I think it's that.
Let me see that. Yeah, that's fine.
Let me see. Yeah, that. So we're in this one also. Yeah, okay. So we are so a little bit more. Yeah, we're here. No, don't worry. I will bring. I will explain inshallah. All right. So let us begin inshallah. Let us begin. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Okay. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala ashraf al-mursaleen wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. All praise and thanks are due to Allah. And may the peace and blessings of Allah be upon His final messenger, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his companions, and all those who follow him until the day of judgment. Typically, when we cover a subject, we try to review, right? To review and go back. And since I memorized a lot of these texts, then I just want to show you how. So this is one volume, right? And all of fiqh is here, right? So the top, you see how it's divided? The top here on the top of the line, that's the text. The bottom is just explanation, like here, hadith, and so we memorize this, and the text is similar to the PowerPoint presentation. It's just there's no hadith, there's no Quran, just the bullet points. This is what we memorize, right? So because of that, it makes it easy for me to review those major points, right? Now, I brought something. So the text here, without the explanation, the one that's on top. Another sheikh did what I like. He made it into the whole text. He made it into graphs, right? So it's easy with some explanation, okay? So it's another way of learning it. When I studied it, this notebook, the pages, this is from 2005, okay? So this notebook is when I studied on the subject, a book of 400 pages. And this is the summary of that book, 400 pages. And my teacher taught me how to do it like this. So this is the way we would do the whole book. So this is the text. This is the way this is the text, the subject. What is the definition? What is the ruling? What is the proof? Quran, Sunnah. What are the pillars? And then this is the same structure. The question and answers. Then this is my teacher did this, but I did a little bit more neater, you see? So this is my teacher. He was teaching me. He was teaching me how to do it. And then this is every chapter that I did that. Subject, this, right?
And all of that.
Subject, this, this is all the summary of the 400-page book. And my teacher did it again. He's explaining. This is his notes. And so this is the whole. So I did this for three books, 3 volumes of the same subject. I did all these notes. So I have it, as this is where you put in the work. I don't have to do that. In the school, you study the class. You wait, you take the exam, and that's it. Right? But I did this. Every chapter that I took, I summarized it. Then when I would study from 5 to 5, I will read the summary, and then I will read the whole book to my teacher, just like reading through in 12 hours. I had my drinks, my food, everything. Okay, so that's just one subject.
So that notebook is probably like about 15 years old.
This notebook is going on 13 years. 13 years old. Yeah. So I have all my notebooks. I have all my books with all the marks. I have so many different. So Alhamdulillah, this book I have it since 2013 too. Since 2002. This book, and it's still Alhamdulillah in very good shape. Just a little bit, moved from in different places in New Jersey, then to Egypt, then moved back to New Jersey, and then moved to Houston, and then moved to Beaumont, and then moved back to Pearland. I lived in Houston, and then moved to Pearland, and still, inshallah, it's in good shape. Many times the books break, so I will do a brief summary of what we covered, so that you can. So we covered the types of water. Number one, we're covering the book of purification. So we covered number one, the types of water, and the types of water are seven, right? Number one is rainwater, water from the sky, ma'ul sama, water from the sea, ma'ul bahar, water from the river, right? These seven waters are pure, okay, pure in nature. Rainwater, water from the sky, water from the river and the ocean, water from the river, ماء السماء وماء البحر, ماء النهر وماء البئر, spring water, well water, spring water, ثلج وماء البرد, and here I put moist, but it should be hail. Okay, hail. Hail, good. Okay, and then the types of water are four, right? So look at the way we had to memorize this. ومياه التي يجوز بها تطهير سبع مياه ماء السماء وماء البحر وماء النهر وماء البئر وماء العين وماء الثلج وماء البرد. ثم المياه على أربعة أقسام, and then the water is divided in four parts. طاهر مطهر غير مكروه وهما المطلق. مطلق are the seven. Pure, purifies, and is not disliked, is the mutlaq water, the seven water. Tahirun mutahirun makruh, pure, it purifies, but is disliked to use, is the water that's exposed extensively by the sun based on a particular region. Tahirun wa ghayru mutahir, pure but doesn't purify, is the water that's used that change the color, the smell, the taste, right? The water that for example, you have water and an object fell in it, right? And it or is used, and the change then is not allowed. ماء النجس وماء المستعمل والمتغير من الخالط ومن الطاهرات, and the one that changed, that a pure object fell in it and it changed its nature. So it changed the color. Like you have water and some leaves that shed color went in the water, and it became like rose water, right? Then that water doesn't purify it. It's pure, you can drink it, but it is not good for wudu. Okay? So if it changes the color, the smell, and the taste, is not good for wudu. Okay? Now, وَمَاءُ النَّجَسِ, and the impure water is the one that is contacted with impurity, and is also based on the amount. So for example, if you have a big barrel of water, right, and an impure object falls on it, like this a solid impure object falls on it, and you can take it out, you take it out, and because of the amount of water, it doesn't impurify it, so it's okay. Okay, now if you have a impure, even if it's not a solid object, if it's a small object that can dissolve in the water, but the amount of water is just over, it's like a big barrel, and a little bit of impurity from that water is still good because of the amount of water. Now let's say you have a small amount of water for wudu, and an impurity fell on it, and it changed the color, the smell, the taste. If it changed the color, smell, taste, then it's no good. If an impure object falls on it, like for example, you have a butter jar, right? Big butter jar. And you went and you found a mouse landed on it, right? So you take the mouse out, you clean it up, and the rest of the butter is good. Still have bread and butter. You clean it up well. You
I
do.
don't think so.
No cakes though.
No cake taken with that.
Right? So for some people, butter is sacred. So, those are the types of water. Then you have the purification of the skin. So in this text, it mentions the purification by different objects. The skin you purify of the dead animal. How do you purify it? By tanning. Okay. So the skin of the dead animal is purified by tanning. That's number one. Number two, the only skin that you can purify is the skin of the pig or the dog. Before, the hair of the pig used to be used for sewing, but now we have alternatives, so it's okay. You want water?
Charlie water.
Okay, okay.
Well, Khadija said, she's gonna look online.
Okay, she's excused, inshallah. So alhamdulillah. So then it goes into the skin, right? Take your time, take your time. Take your time, no rush, inshallah. She you can okay, take your time. Inshallah, don't worry, inshallah. I know when you travel it's difficult. She just came today?
No, she's been back.
Okay, we'll give her the excuse. Okay, inshallah. So number one is the water, right? And what are the pure waters, and what is the impurities, the types of impurities, and if it falls in the water, then the purification of the skin, right? So I'm just giving you the gist of the text because it's similar, but it might vary in structure, but it's similar structure. Purification of the skin. So it says the purification of the purification of the skin is the skin of the dead is purified by tanning, except the skin of the pig and the dog and whatever is born from them, right? Or whatever hybrids. Then no, it doesn't purify. And then wa'admul maytati and the bones of the dead is pure, right? Najisun is impure, illa al-adami, except the children of Adam. We don't, because we're pure. Now, there's differences, and because before the bones and the shoulder blade were used to write the Quran, and the Quran you can't write it on something impure. That's a rule, right? And then there's another. The next one is the using of utensils, the pots and ولا يجوز استعمال أواني الذهب والفضة. You shouldn't use. It's not allowed to use pots of gold and silver, like real gold and real silver. ويجوز غيرهما من الأواني, and any other kind of pot is allowed. Then it goes into siwak, because now it's a purifying object. What's pure, what's not pure, how do you purify the skin, what are the types of water, and then the siwak. And then here we talked about, so the siwak is preferable when you wake up, when you go for salah, right? And the Prophet ﷺ said, if it wasn't for if it wasn't because of I didn't want to make it a burden on my ummah, I would make use in the siwak compulsory, but he didn't, right? And then we have the purifying objects, right? Making sure that you purify the body, the clothes, the ground, the shoes, the mirrors, the butter is some a similar substance, right? And the skin of animals, right? Then some we talked about here there's some useful points about the rope, like the rope for drying the clothes, right? Is it pure? It's outside, so it's pure. And then we have, like for example, you're walking. For the men, there's some narrations that is better that the clothes don't drag, right? But then a woman companion asked, what about us, ya Rasulullah? Because for the men, the aura is from the knees to the navel, right? Yes, it's better for them to be modest and cover themselves, but still, because if they're working in the field, that's the aura. That's what's important. The aura for the woman is all the body except the face and the hands. So a woman asks, Ya Rasulullah, when we walk, our dress drags and it comes in contact with impurities. Should we lift up the garment? Now, how do we deal with it? The Prophet ﷺ said, no, let it drag. Why? Because whatever comes after it purifies it. The dirt purifies. It's pure. So he said, don't worry. Whatever comes after it purifies it. Don't lift up your garment, right? Now, then we talked about the etiquettes of using the bathroom, right? The etiquettes of using the bathroom, of not. We talked about the etiquettes of using the bathroom, not carrying something that has the name of Allah inside, avoid being seen by others, dua when entering, no talking. But this is in case of emergency, you can talk. The bathrooms that we have is different. We have a private place for and then you have the wudu area. So since it's separate, you can talk in the wudu area, but not in the when you shouldn't talk is during the time when one is using the restroom. You understand? Like if you finish, if you're done, and you have a child and you have to say something, you say it. It's okay, right? But now during because the angels take notes, don't face the qibla. But now this is like in the desert. We have walls. It's okay if the bathroom if the toilet is facing Mecca. It's okay, because you have walls. Now, but in the desert, that's different. They say if it's an open desert, and don't face the qibla when relieving oneself. Then no using a hole in the ground, because the Prophet ﷺ said that the jinn sleep in the hole. That's one of the residents of the jinn. So don't do that, because you don't want them as your enemies, right? It's scary, right? So another.
Ask me a question about that, and I can't remember.
But then when you go for Hajj and all that, they have, it's like the hole in the bathroom.
But that's a bathroom that has water running. That's made specific, but it's like the natural holes, like.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like on the ground. Like if you go into in the wilderness and you find the hole, leave it alone. You get it? A snake can come out. There's many different things. Not only a jinn, and the Prophet ﷺ said that the jinns take the shape of snakes
No wonder I don't like snakes.
and scorpions. Okay.
I don't like snakes tonight.
So then he said, avoid places like the shade, walkway, fruitful trees. Some people will urinate under the tree, but so it is haram to urinate on a tree that is a fruitful tree, like an orange tree, or haram, because that's for benefit of people, right? Also the walkway. A person is sometimes in different countries, people stand in the corner outside and just urinate in the wall, and that's not good. People see that, and people might end up cursing you, might end up saying something dua against you, right? So it's very bad. Also, the shade. The people use the shade in places that are like of extreme heat. People need the shade, right? So you see how it takes care of the rights of people, of the right of way. This is the human right of way. And then you have, don't urinate in still water. But it's different. Like people say, oh, don't urinate when taking a shower. But it's okay because the water's flowing. The water doesn't stay. You understand? So if you look at the when you're showering, the water doesn't change the color, right? The smell, because it's flowing. It's always flowing. That's it's different. Now, if you're taking a shower like in a small pool, then no, because that's used for many different purposes, for swimming. For another thing is urinating while standing, right? And so now, but there is other hadith that the Prophet urinated while standing. Aisha said in the book, that in the hadith, that if anybody says that the Messenger of Allah urinated while standing, tell him he has lied. But Hudayfa saw the Messenger of Allah when he was standing by an area that was like garbage, and he urinated while standing. So it gives us the lesson that when you're traveling and you go to a service area and sometimes they're filthy and you have the emergency to use the restroom, what do you do? So for the men, it's a little bit more convenient, because sometimes in some service areas it's filthy, and everything is outside of the toilet. So the urinal is better because there's water flowing, right? So that's where you have those, how the usage of the hadith can be implemented. Then you have the cleaning ones, removing impurities, right? Cleaning oneself with the left hand, right? And then washing yourself, and then exiting the bathroom. So then you have to enter in the bathroom as well. Then we talked about wudu. Wudu, the virtues of wudu. How the next page it says that the wudu removes sins, and every sin that falls from the limbs because of the wudu, washing your hands, the drops, it cleans your sins. Then the good wudu expiates the sins, and the prayer becomes extra, right? And the Prophet ﷺ said, on the day of judgment, there will be a people called Al-Muhajjalun. Al-Muhajjalun are those that have traces of wudu. So every place that made wudu, on the day of judgment, will have light when there will be no light. So the places of wudu will have light, okay, shining forth. And that's why the Prophet ﷺ said, increase your light. Increase your light. Now, we talked about, now we get into the what we discussed last week, right? We discussed last week, and this is a little bit technical, right? But we discussed last week about the significance of knowing the obligatory aspects of worship, the sunnah aspects of worship, and then the extra beautification, the extra items that we do, that if you don't do it, it doesn't invalidate your prayer, right? So and then we discuss what is the significance, why knowing it is important. So for example, one is that if you know what is obligatory, then you safeguard the action from being invalid. Okay? If you, let's say, missed the sunnah, or because of shortage of water, you ended up doing the wudu with the obligatory parts only, like it's in the ayah, then the question is that wudu valid or not? With a legitimate excuse, right? We want to put it like that, because some people will take the easy way out, and then they will neglect the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. And no, the sunnah of the Prophet is legislation. But the thing is, finding an easy way when there's difficulty. That's a principle. Whenever there's hardship, it necessitates ease. We should try to find ease. So, for example, uh, you have shortage of water, and you don't want to go to tayammum, so you go and make wudu with the six steps, right? The six parts of wudu. Number one, intention and niyyah, the washing of the face, the wiping of part of the head, the washing of the hands to the elbows, the washing of the feet, washing of the feet unto the ankles, and the sequence. These are six things, and this is from Surah Al-Ma'idah, verse 6. يا أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا إذا قمتم إلى الصلاة فاغسلوا وجوهكم وأيديكم إلى المرافق وامسحوا برؤوسكم وأرجلكم إلى الكعبين. Surah Al-Ma'idah, verse 6. O you who believe, when you stand up for prayer, wash your faces, فَاغْسِلُوا وُجُوهَكُمْ وَأَيْدِيَكُمْ إِلَى الْمَرَافِقِ, and your hands unto the elbow. وَامْسَحُوا بِرُؤُوسِكُمْ, and wipe your head. وَأَرْجُلَكُمْ, and wash your feet. إِلَى الْكَعْبَيْنِ, unto the ankles. Alright? So that the ayah mentions 4. But I said that the obligatory parts of wudu are 6. So the first one is the intention, because no act of worship will be accepted without the intention. And the 6th one, so 1 intention, the 4 mentioned in the ayah, right? And the 6th one is the sequence. Allah put an order, we can't go away from the order. You see? So if you do those 6 with a legitimate reason, not by slacking off and being lazy, but because you have a legitimate reason for not doing the sunnah parts of wudu, then your wudu is valid. Okay? Your wudu is valid. And Allah knows that. It goes back to the intention. Actions are judged by the intention. 70 chapters in fiqh. 70 chapters of Islamic jurisprudence begin with the hadith, with one subject. Actions are judged by their intention.
Question.
Yes.
So the obligatory part of wudu is only to be used under certain conditions.
Yeah. See, not because you just want to be lazy and just do it.
Right.
Because Allah says in the Quran in 80 verses, Allah mentions about the importance of obedience to the Prophet in 80 verses. Okay? And there is a book called The Authority of the Sunnah by Jamaluddin Zarabozo, and I studied that book 1 year, and in it he mentions that there's 80 verses, but then he has a chapter narrating all the verses, the 80 verses. Okay, so Allah says in the Quran, whoever obeys, Allah says, obey Allah and obey His Messenger. But then Allah switches it, and He said, and whoever obeys the Messenger has obeyed Allah. You see?
Mm-hmm.
So following the Sunnah, doing the Sunnah is obeying Allah too. Alright? So it's just with a legitimate reason that, because that's the Prophet ﷺ said, pray as you've seen me pray. And this is the full description of what he did. But the reason it's good to know that is because in those cases, right? Otherwise, in that way, for example, somebody, Matt, that they don't have much water. Let's say there was a hurricane and there's a shortage of water. Or we got a notification in this area recently that Don't use the water because there's going to be some treatment and there's going to be a smell in the water. What do? And we have just half a case of water, or we have a case of 24 bottles of water, and it happens to be Thursday, and people are coming to break fast, but we can't drink the water from the fountain. What do we do, right? So that's where you try to make it easy. Some might say, yeah, drink that water because you're fasting. But then what? How do we make wudu? Right? You make tayammum in that case. Or you take one bottle, you drink some for breaking the fast, and with that same water, you can make the wudu, the 6 obligatory parts, done with that one bottle. Okay? Now, the sunnah parts of wudu is saying Bismillah, washing the hands before. I would recommend, right, to, throughout the week, just to read through wherever, just mark where we left off and just read through. If you can do it like every day, like read the whole section, that's fine. If you want to break it down and every 2 days you finish that section, by the time try to become familiar. Like say, I'm just going to do this page, right? And I'm going to read it 3 times or 5 times. Just read it. So you can, then you know the structure of the book. You see that? The 6 obligation. Then here you have the hadith, right? And the proofs and the Quran and this. But it's good because then it sticks to you. And it comes to your aid when you need it. Right? So the sunnah of wudu is saying Bismillah, is washing the hands, rinsing the mouth, right? And the nose, washing the forehead, washing the ears with new water, running water through the beard, and running water, washing the fingers and the toes, and beginning with the right side and doing the things 3 times, and the sequence, like making sure not just the order, making sure that every act is followed by the other act, that there's no intermission, that there's no break, that there's no long conversation while you're doing wudu. You understand? Like you can have a little conversation, but it's better to focus because it's worship. Now, we'll
With the feet, is it 3 times too?
yeah. The feet 3 times.
Not just 1 time?
No, 3 times. Yeah. So you rinse it, you rub it 3 times. You rub it 1, 2, yeah.
Do you do that one? No. Something like if you made wudu first thing in the morning and like you go and you have on your socks or something and then you say like
Pass your hand on it.
That's different. So that's what we're going to talk about now. Right? So we go to page 44. You got it? Good. Sister Shana. So later on, we'll review the rest, okay? So just reread it. And then if you did that and you have time, then you try to read some of the chapters so that you can... Okay, so the wiping of the socks. So again, number 1. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. So we are... Okay. So the wiping of the socks, the proof of its legitimacy, is part of the sunnah. And Imam al-Nawawi says that all those who qualify for ijma' agreed that it is allowed to wipe the socks. So here, remember we mentioned from when I did the Fiqh tree, we mentioned that there is the tools, which is called Usool, these are the tools that we use to find proofs, right? I'm gonna just write it here. So number 1, so you have Usool Fiqh, right? Usool al-Fiqh is the methodology for extracting rules. I mean, the methodology for extracting rules. I'm gonna do this for you, just because you came today, okay? I want you to be comfortable. This is like, sister, I'm moving you from economy class to first class. Come, Bismillah. I want you to sit here. Make me happy. I won't charge you extra, don't worry, inshallah. Yeah, because, no, it's true, no, anytime when you come, please, because we have these chairs so they can be used, inshallah. Come. Yeah, soft. Once you sit down, you're not gonna want to get up. Yeah, watch, fall asleep.
No falling
That's
asleep.
why,
There we go, it doesn't have massage, but.
That's why Brother Yusuf stay all day in the bed.
Yeah, because we take care of him. Okay, so Usool al-Fiqh, right? Usool al-Fiqh is the tools on how muftis and scholars, this is one of the tools, how they find rules, okay? Walaikum salam. So number one, right, we said, number one, they go to the Quran and its sciences. Okay? So you go tafsir, reason for revelation, tajweed, all these sciences. Just that you look at all the verses on that subject, and then you look at all these sciences and the context of the verses to see if there's something about that subject. So they look first at the Quran, right, as a proof. Number two, like for example, wudu. What is wudu obligatory now? Then there's a verse in the Quran, right? Right? And then they look at the sunnah, but not just the hadith. Some people will go just to the hadith. I found in the hadith, no. And sciences. Like the sciences of hadith, study the biographies of man, the chain of narration, the phrase. And then number three is the ijma', and that's what this is mentioned here, that the proof for wiping of the socks is an ijma', which means consensus. Then number four, something called qiyas, which is analogy. Okay? So analogy compares something new, like something new that didn't exist in the time of the Prophet, and they compare it with something old that has a ruling, and they try to see, is this halal or haram? Like for example, before, in the time of the Prophet, they didn't have cigarettes, so that means it's halal, right? So how do we figure it out? So they do qiyas. So they compared first cigarettes with onions, because onions stink, right? And the Prophet said, don't come to prayer when you eat raw onions. Okay? So they compare it. So they compare it, and then what is the ruling of going to the mosque with onion? Is the slight. Okay? And cigarettes leads to smell similar, so therefore is the slight. So that was the first ruling. Then later on, it was discovered by specialists that cigarettes cause cancer and cause death. So then they compared cigarettes to suicide, and that suicide is haram. And why? Because it causes death. Cigarettes cause death, therefore it's haram. You see how the rule changed? See how this is why this is beneficial. This is how they do analogy. Right? So it's not, so some people say, oh, you don't have it in the Quran and the Sunnah, so it's okay. That means I can go smoke weed, cocaine, everything, because it's not in the Quran and Sunnah. So cocaine causes intoxication, therefore we compare it to alcohol. Alcohol is haram. Why? Because it intoxicates. Cocaine intoxicates, it takes you from your normal state, therefore it's haram too. And you compare all of that with those things that intoxicate. Right? So that's why this is important. You see? And the reason I share that with the reason I share that with you is because it's mentioned here, right? I want you to look at the book, right? I want you to look at it. So here it says, proof for legitimacy. Okay? So number one, it says, wiping over the socks is part of the sunnah, right? all of those who qualify, all the scholars who qualify for ijma, consensus. So wiping of the socks is proven by the consensus, not by the Quran, not by the Sunnah, but it's by the consensus. Okay, but it says. So then now the resident, like when you go to work, and there is a scholar that explained of how many Sahabas used they used a different material socks, because some people say no, it only has to be leather socks. No, regular socks are allowed as well, right? Now it's better to wash, but it is allowed because it becomes an inconvenience, it becomes a hardship. And remember, hardship necessitates ease. So the ease is you wake up in the morning, you pray Fajr, right? And when you make wudu, and when you're in wudu, number one, you have to be in wudu, and you put the socks. That means that every time, let's say you lost your wudu afterwards, when you make wudu, you don't have to take off the socks and wash your feet. You can just wipe the top to the bottom. That's it, done. One time. Wipe, and then the other one. Wipe, that's it, done. And for the resident, that's what it says here. Number one, for the residents, he is allowed yamsahul muqimu yawma wa layla. The one who's resident can wipe one day, 24 hours. So from when you start, 24 hours, you can wipe over your socks. You don't have to take them off. But we're going to talk about what are the things that invalidate that. يَمْسَهُ الْمُقِيمُ يَوْمَ وَلَيْلَةً وَالْمُسَافِرُ, the traveler can wipe over his socks for 3 days. If he leaves them on, right, and he just makes wudu, he can just wipe over the socks for 3 days. يَمْسَهُ الْمُسَافِرُ يَوْمَ وَلَيْلَةً يَمْسَهُ الْمُقِيمُ, muqim is the resident. يَمْسَهُ الْمُقِيمُ يَوْمَ وَلَيْلَةً, 24 hours. وَالْمُسَافِرُ, and the traveler, ثَلَاثَةِ أَيَّامِ بِلَيَالِهِنَّ, 3 days. Okay?
So he has to have on the socks for 3 days?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
okay, like you can't say, okay, I'm a traveler, I'm not going in the hotel, I take my socks off.
No.
You have to have the
Yeah,
socks
yeah,
on for 3
yeah,
days.
yeah. So that's why. So now it says, and the period, once once the person makes wudu, washes their feet, puts the socks on, from there 24 hours. Now we go into the things that invalidate it. I'm just gonna quickly glance through here so that I can فرض الوضوء سنن وعشرة أشياء فضل الاستنجاء الغسل mess here. So it says and the socks, the description is that it has to go cover the place that it has to be make wudu. So sometimes our youth, they wear socks, but they're below the ankle. Okay? So it has to cover the ankles. So that when you wipe the place that you're supposed to make wudu. Okay? So it says, so you have to wear it after, you have to be in wudu when you wear it. It has to cover the ankle. Right? وَأَنْ يَكُونَ مِمَّا يُمْكِنُ تَتَّبِعَ عَلَيْهِ, and that you can walk with it, right? And then it says, يَمْسَهُ مُقِيمُ يَوْمَ وَلَيْلَةً, and then it says, فَإِنْ مَسَهَ فِي الْحَدَرِ, and if he wiped with the intention that he's a resident and then travel, that wiping is invalid. وَإِنْ مَسَهَ فِي السَّفَرِ ثُمَّ أَقَامَ, and then if he was traveling and came back home, then that's it. He has to wash his feet, and then he can wear the socks again, and you have a 24-hour resident period, okay? So that, because that's the intention, right? So فَإِن مَسَحَ فِي الْحَضَرِ ثُمَّ سَافَرَ, if he wiped it when he was a resident and then traveled, أو مسح في السفر ثم أقام, or he wiped it when he was traveling and then became a resident, أتم مسح المقيم, then the wipe ended. Now what invalidates? What invalidates the wiping? Number one, and it says, three things invalidate the wiping. Number one, if you take off the socks. So let's say, like for example, you started in the morning, and you usually wipe. I wipe. Then you decide to take them off, and then you put them back on. Now you lost wudu. Afterwards, you lost wudu, and you're like, no, it's okay. I just took them off and put them back on. No, that wiping is invalid. You have to make wudu and wash the feet, and then put the socks. So if you, let's say during the day, you take off the socks, and then you put them on, and you didn't lose wudu, yeah, you lost it because you took off the socks. Right? It's okay if you want to make wudu and wash them, but it says when inqida al-mudda, like بِخَلِهِمَا, taking them off, when qida al-mudda, and then the time ended, the 24 hours ended, the 3 days ended, like you're traveling 4 days, no, you wash. 5th day, then you could start from the 4th day, another 3 days. You get it? بِخَلِهِمَا وَانْقِدَاءِ الْمُدَّةِ, and then the last thing is وَمَا يُوجِبُ الْغُسُلِ. If you have to make ghusl, then you take off the socks. Like, a couple had intimacy, then you take off the socks. You wash. That is invalid. You have to take a shower. So those are the three things. Those are the three things that invalidate the wiping. Okay, those are the three things that invalidate the wiping. Okay, so I'm going to, inshallah, what I'm going to do, I'm going to give you the gist, right? We're going to do the ghusl. We're going to go through the gist, and it's less detailed than in the book, but then you could read in the book because it's very self-explanatory. And then he talked about, actually the order here is a little bit different. Okay. And the ghusl, and what makes ghusl obligatory, الذي يوجب الغسل, are 6 things. Three things are related to men and women, and 3 are only for women. Okay? When there is intimacy, that for both, you have to make ghusl. Inzalul mani, after intimacy, right? And then al-maut, death. So those 3 things for the men and women require ghusl. All right, intimacy, inzal al-mani, and al-maut, and death. Then, and 3 things are special for the women. وَثَلَاثَةٌ تَخْتَصُ بِهَا النِّسَاء وَهِيَ الْحَيْض, menstruation, and nifas, postpartum bleeding, وَالْوِلَادَةِ, and childbirth. Those 3 things. Okay? Those 3 things, after it's done, right? Then you make ghusl. Now, what are the pillars? Again, the obligatory parts of ghusl. And then we'll talk about what are the sunnah of ghusl. So the obligatory parts of ghusl are 3 things: the intention, the removing of any impurity if it's on the body. Okay? The removing of impurity if it's in the body. وإيصال الماء, and to put water all over the body. Those are the three obligatory parts of ghusl. Okay? If, let's say, you did that with a clean intention, because the intention is there first, you have the intention, you removed all impurities, you jumped in the water, you showered, you didn't do wudu before, you didn't do the right side, the left side, you just did that, your ghusl is valid. You see that? That's the obligatory. Like, let's say you're on time constraint, you gotta go. You know, everybody's using the bathroom. What are we gonna do? We have to go. There's grandma's gonna miss the plane. She's going to Trinidad. It's her vacation. You know, right? So we need to go. So we can't take a nice relaxing shower and do this and leave the conditioner 5 minutes so that it can settle in, and then you go and then you rinse it in a particular way and the water temperature, and by the time you miss 3 planes. Right? Oh, I was just talking about you. You come. Look, even you use the conditioner, right? we're talking about here. So we're about to conclude, inshallah. So yeah. So how much time? Adhan is time? Double check. Tell me the time.
4 minutes, 3-4 minutes.
Okay. So we're just gonna finish this section and we'll wrap it up, inshallah. We're just gonna touch the sunnah.
2 minutes.
2 minutes left. Okay, excellent. All right, so we're gonna talk about so we have the ghusl. We're gonna talk about the ghusl. We finished the ghusl, and inshallah, yarhamukallah. And we mentioned that in 2 minutes, inshallah, we'll do it. All right. So we said the obligatory parts of ghusl are 3. Number 1, the intention. Number 2, removing any impurity if it's in the body. Number 3 is water all over the body from head to toe. Okay? Making sure that water touches all over your body. Those are the 3 things. The sunnah of wudu are 5. وَسُنَنُهُ خَمْسَةُ أَشْيَاء. التسمية, saying Bismillah before. والوضوء قبله, and making wudu before. وإمرار اليد على الجسد, and touching the body, rubbing the body. See, the first is you wet your body. Here is saying rubbing the body. وإمرار اليد على الجسد والموالاة, and following the order, right? Following the order. وتقديم اليمنى على اليسرى, and starting from right to left. So number 1, the same Bismillah. Number 2, wudu before. Number 3, touching the body with your hands. Number 4 is the doing the things right away. Okay, muwala. Wa taqdimul yumna al-yusra, right over left. So you wash. We'll talk about the way. All right, you wash right to left. So those are the sunnah of ghusl. Correct. Now, the last thing, inshallah, that we'll talk about is Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Tayyamum. So it will be brief, inshallah. It will be brief, and we'll cover that subject. Okay. Wa shara'itu tayammum khamsatu ashya. So the tayammum, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. See, there's details. There's ghusl, how to do ghusl for women. This is all detailed here. So the dry tayammum. The proof for legitimacy is in the Quran and the Sunnah and in the Ijma'. So 1, 2, 3. So then he mentions the Quran, Sunnah, and the Ijma'. So tayammum is wiping with dirt. When is it permissible? 1, if you cannot find water, or and the amount of water for wudu is insufficient. Number 2, if you're injured or ill, all right, and everything has a proof. So for example, there was a Sahaba, and this Sahaba was sick, and one of the Sahaba was asked, can I make ghusl? Can I make, do I have to make wudu? Do I have to make tayammum? And he said, no, can I make ghusl? He said, and they said, no, you should make ghusl. Don't make tayammum. And he made ghusl, and he was injured, and he became sick, and he died. And they went to the Prophet ﷺ, and they said, and they told him, and he said, he should have made tayammum. He could have made tayammum. So that's number one. You can't find water. Number two, injured or ill. Number two, if the water is too cold, right, and it causes you harm. Number four, when the water is nearby, right, and if one fears, like let's say the water barrel is outside, like back in the days, like in some, like not here, like, and you have the water barrel outside, but outside there might be animals, there might be dangerous. So what do? You understand? So there's alternatives. So when you fear, right, if you're saving the water, like I said, the Brookside Village, Pearland says, all the water is gonna be treated, is gonna smell, you don't consume it, right? And we have only a case of water. What do? You do tayammum, right? Now, if you have enough to do the obligatory parts of wudu, you can do that. The intention, the washing of the hands, the face, washing of the elbows to the hands to the elbows, and washing the feet. If you do that, it's sufficient before tayammum. You can minimize, okay? And then you have, when one gets water, if you have to go get water, like let's say there's no shower and you have to go walk a distance, right, to get water, but you fear that you're going to lose the prayer, you can make tayammum and just go pray. In that case, not laziness. Again, everything is by intention. It's not because of laziness. All right? And then how do you make tayammum? You tap, 1, 2, wipe the hands, and your face. According to the Shafi madhab, you wipe, you bump twice, you wipe the hands, and you do it to the elbows. But based on the proof, you just wipe, you hit twice, wipe the hands, like that. Look, that's it. And your face with the same dirt. That's it. You're done. Then you go pray. Right? So okay? And this you study it one day, like an hour. So I'm giving you the gist because you have it here, you have the book, you just have to know.